What's going on, everyone? Do you remember this set leak of Gale from a ways back now? It's her all dressed up in typical Gale fashion, walking through a group that is masked up, mic'd up. You clearly have a camera in the background. She has a sort of look of determination or irritation on her face. You know, she's walking rather briskly. You can kind of judge by the photo. And ever since I've seen this, the sort of speculation wheel has been going off in my head. Like, what could this be? What could this mean? Is this an actual picture of a filmed scene in Scream 5? Or is it just a photo and that's the crew, planning a scene or, speaking amongst each other? And maybe Courtney is on her way to a scene. It would explain the sort of brisk walk and the determination look on her face. Maybe that is where the scene is going to be filmed and she's just practicing her entrance while, everyone's planning behind her. Or maybe it's something else entirely. Now, I have a theory that, of course, I want to have a discussion with you all and get your opinion down in the comments below, so make sure you join the discussion. But I have an idea that I really want to present that is sort of centered around this photo. But before we get started, be sure to like the video. It helps me out a lot, lets me know that you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. And subscribe to the channel, followed by the bell notifications so you never miss an upload. And let's get into it. Scream 5 has a ton of rumors and speculations regarding a potential documentary. And if there is a documentary in Scream 5, we have no idea what that could entail. A lot of rumors are that it's going to be centered around Stab. They went and got Heather Graham's rights and the footage, and they even had Tori Spelling speak in a clubhouse, and she kind of gave the hint, hint, wink, wink that it would happen. Possibly it's centered around Woodsboro and the new group of kids as well as the OGs. And they're just kind of doing an anniversary type thing of the original Woodsboro. I mean, it's the 25th anniversary of Scream, so it's the anniversary in the actual film itself. And that could explain why Gale is so upset in this photo. I mean, think about it. Scream 4, Gale had major writer's block. I mean, she couldn't pump anything out. She kind of took a back seat and focused on, being a wife, and she wanted to get back in the action. Like, that's what Scream 4 was all about. She started reporting again, started doing that. Well, what if that continued into Scream 5? Or maybe she did get back into reporting, and she did get back into writing books and things like that. Well, one character that has been sort of theorized and rumored is Joel. And Joel, what was he doing the last time we saw him? Obviously, he was Gale's cameraman, right? Well, he disappeared because he was scared and didn't want to be involved. Well, at the tail end of Scream 2, he returns and says, hey, Gale, let's, continue this. And then Gale jumps in the ambulance and drives away. And then we know in Scream 3 that she basically put everything on hold. She didn't get back into reporting or anything to sort of mend Dewey and get him back on his feet. I mean, she said as much in Scream 3. So what did Joel do? Well, we know Joel had tons of aspirations, and he really wanted to be a top reporter, and he really wanted to get in the documentary side. Well, what if Joel does return, and he returns as the head and the main reporter or whatever on this documentary? I mean, that would explain this picture perfectly. Gale looking at Joel as like, wait, you were my cameraman, and now you're doing this documentary on my life story and everyone's life story in my town. It would explain why all the camera crew and all the people are mic'd up, why, they're clearly filming something, why she's walking through them. I mean, it's Gale. She'd look at it as like, get out of my way, and maybe she's just really upset that Joel is behind this whole documentary and it's not her. Like, why didn't they come and ask me? Why didn't they make me, somebody of importance? I mean, that was her thing in Scream 3. When she ran into Dewey, and Dewey was like, they wanted somebody with firsthand experience. And she was like, I wrote the book on this. Her sort of ego is centered around these Woodsboro killings and sort of this story. So if somebody else was to come in, especially somebody that she worked with that was, sort of lesser to her, he being the cameraman and she being the, mainstream reporter, 60 Minutes 2 type thing. And, she's just really upset about the situation. I think it explains this photo. I think it explains a lot. It would be an interesting dynamic to see sort of unfold and see their interactions and the way they sort of go at each other. Maybe she's trying to sabotage the documentary, or she's trying to, get involved somehow. Or maybe she's like, you know what, I'm going to do my own documentary. Because even this photo, we have no idea when it takes place. It could very well be in a sort of beginning part of the film, and this camera crew, along with Joel, show up. They start recording, they're doing interviews and stuff. She's like, what is going on here? And then sees Joel, asks Joel, and he's, this big wig now. Maybe he's this big documentary person. And I mean, it would be perfect. It would sort of explain where he's been between, Scream 2 and now, if he is in this film at all. But that's sort of the rumor mill. I mean, he even had a tweet, I believe, where he basically said, I left in a cab and I returned and, whatever. I don't remember it exactly. I'll have it up on the screen for you to see. But it would explain his sort of absence in between, Scream 2 and now, if he was to be plugged in, because we got to know what happened. Well, if he became some bigwig documentary and he has ties to the Ghostface killings, given that he was in the center of it all in Scream 2, I mean, his van became evidence. I mean, that's why he left. Randy was killed in his van, and he was just upset and distraught and just said, I'm out of here. It would be awesome to see him return as this, big documentary guy that just rose up the ranks and claimed the rights to do this documentary on Woodsboro, the anniversary, the killings. And as the killings start back up, everything's like, what is going on? What's happening? Maybe Joel's like, not again. This can't be happening again. And, you have Gale trying to solve this murder to kind of get the spotlight back on her. And so now she's putting herself in danger. And now Joel's kind of has this conflict of like, I want to get out of here because I don't want to be, stabbed. But at the same time, like, I have to do this documentary. I just think it would be such a cool dynamic to see. It would explain this photo exactly. And it would, sort of be a great storytelling and sort of really tap into Gale as a character, because the whole franchise, what has she been about? She's been about ego and fame and, I mean, even Randy said, she's a reporter. They report the news, they stage the news. And so this sort of theory would be a perfect sort of way to add some real value to Gale's character. This would be her to a T. Somebody that she looks at as, sort of lesser than her, that rose up the ranks and became, the spotlight and, centered around her story. I mean, because that's what it is. It's her story. She's looking at it as like, wait, if anyone's going to do this, it's me. Again, resorting back to this picture, I think it explains it perfectly. But as always, this is a discussion and I want to hear from you. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and I would love to get your take. Do you think that would be an awesome, sort of story to unfold? Do you think that would really fit the sort of narrative between Joel and Gale, and would it add sort of depth to her character and sort of that egotistical way that she's always been? I'd really love to hear from you. I think this is a real interesting theory that makes a lot of sense. It's something that's realistic that I could see happening, especially if it's a documentary. Like, why have some random people do the documentary when you can have somebody returning, such as a Joel, that fans recognize and know, and it would make sense why he would be leading the documentary. That was his goal. That was his dream. So I just think it would be a great story arc. But as always, I want to hear from you. And if you haven't yet, don't forget to like this video. It helps me out a lot. Lets me know that you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. And subscribe to the channel, followed by the bell notification so you never miss an upload. Till next time.